You've felt it. I know you have. That specific sensation, no warning, no reason, that tells you with absolute physical certainty that there is someone standing directly behind you. Not somewhere in the room. Behind you. Close. Your neck knows before your brain does. Something registers, a shift in the air, a change in the quality of the silence, and your body sends one instruction: turn around. So you turn around, and there's nothing there. Of course, there's nothing there. There is never anything there. You exhale. You feel slightly stupid. You go back to what you were doing. That's what normal people do. I did it for 31 nights in a row. And on the 32nd night, the night I finally stopped turning, I understood that the emptiness I'd been finding wasn't proof that nothing was there. It was proof that whatever was there had learned, a very long time ago, exactly how to not be seen. This is what I found out. And I don't think you're going to want to know. It started in October. Not dramatically. No event that preceded it, no obvious trigger. I just came home one evening, made dinner, sat down at my desk to work and felt it. The warmth at the back of my neck. Not a chill. That's what everyone always says, a chill ran down my spine, but this was the opposite. Warmth. The specific warmth of proximity. The way you can feel another person standing close to you in a dark room before you can see or hear them, because the air between you is no longer the same temperature as the air around you. That warmth, right at the nape of my neck. I turned immediately, full rotation, fast. The room was empty. I live alone. Door locked when I came home, windows closed. I walked through every room anyway, the way you do bathroom, bedroom, the small closet in the hallway that I'd never once opened before in 2 years of living there. Nothing. I went back to the desk, told myself I was tired, that the brain does things when it's tired. And I believed that, genuinely, for about 3 more days, because it happened again the next night. Same desk, same time just past 11, same warmth, same certainty, same empty room when I turned. And the night after that. And the night after that. By the end of the first week, I had built a routine around it. Work late, feel it, turn, find nothing, go to bed. Like checking that the stove is off, a box to tick before I could settle. The 8th night, I turned, and in the fraction of a second, between starting to turn and the room coming into focus, I saw something at the very edge of my vision, the outer margin, where shapes are suggestion rather than fact. A darkness, the size and rough proportion of a person's shoulder, gone by the time my eyes could find it. I sat completely still for a long time after that, because up until that point I'd been explaining it to myself. Tired brain, overactive nervous system, the mind playing the same small prank over and over. But the mind doesn't generate shadows at the periphery of your vision. That's not a prank the brain plays. And whatever I had seen or almost seen had not been in front of me when I looked. It had been leaving. Like it had realized, in the exact moment I started to turn, that being seen was not something it was willing to allow. By the second week, I had a theory. The turning. Every time I felt the sensation and turned, I was confirming it, treating the signal as real, responding to it, and then resetting, over and over. And whatever was producing that signal was learning exactly how long it had before I turned. So I stopped turning, not because I wasn't scared, I was, but I needed to understand the shape of the thing before I decided how scared to be. The first night I held still, the warmth came at 11:14. I kept my eyes on the desk, wrote down the time. It intensified. Not dramatically, no sudden pressure, nothing you could point to. Just the warmth becoming more specific, moving from the back of the neck, down between the shoulder blades. Like something leaning closer. I held for 2 minutes, then 3, then 5. And then, slowly, like a sound losing volume, it faded. I wrote it all down. Time, duration, location on the body. I kept a log, the way I'd keep a log of anything I was trying to understand. Data first, conclusions later. Night 2, 11:22. 6 minutes before it faded. Night 3, 8 minutes. By the end of the third week, I had 3 weeks of entries and one pattern that was impossible to ignore. The sensation was staying longer every night. Not by much, a minute here, 2 minutes there, but consistently, measurably longer, as if, now that I had stopped confirming the space was empty, whatever was producing the sensation had decided it was safe to stay. As if the turning had been the thing keeping it cautious. Night 28, 11:40. I was sitting still, watching the clock, the warmth already present and deepening the way it did now when it had been there a while. And then I felt breath. Not a draft, not the vague suggestion of air movement that I might have talked myself out of. The specific rhythm of breath in, pause, out at the back of my neck. I did not turn. I sat absolutely still, and my hand, which had been holding the pen over the notebook, stopped moving. Not because I decided to stop, because something older and more reliable than decision-making had taken over. The part of the nervous system that goes very quiet and very still when it calculates that movement would be the wrong choice. I don't know how long I sat like that. Long enough for my coffee to go cold. Long enough for the street outside to go completely quiet. Long enough to become aware that the quality of the air directly behind my chair was different from the quality of the air in the rest of the room, denser. Somehow, the way air gets when a space is occupied. When it finally faded, it didn't fade slowly the way it usually did. It stopped, like a door closing. And I sat alone in my apartment at what the clock told me was 2:17 in the morning, and I realized I had made a mistake. Not the experiment, the assumption underneath the experiment. I had been treating this as a phenomenon with a mechanism I could understand, something with rules that, once identified, would make the thing manageable, predictable. What I hadn't considered was that the rules might be its rules. That in stopping the turning and making myself predictable, I hadn't taken control of the situation. I had handed it over. On the 32nd night, the sensation didn't come at the desk. It came in the hallway, I was walking from the kitchen to the bedroom, and I felt it, but not at the back of my neck, at my side, to the left and slightly behind, matching my pace. The warmth, the presence, the undeniable physical signal that the space beside me was occupied. I stopped walking. It stopped. I stood in the middle of the hallway, and I did not turn, and I looked at the wall ahead of me, and I tried to understand what the data in the notebook actually meant. 31 nights of the same location, the same desk, and then the 32nd night, and it was in the hallway. It had moved. I went to the bedroom, and I closed the door, and I lay in the dark, and I thought about peripheral vision. The peripheral vision is not a backup system. It's the original. Before we had language, before we had complex cognition, before we had the capacity to analyze and explain and rationalize, we had the peripheral vision, low resolution, high sensitivity to movement, tuned specifically for detecting things that were trying not to be detected, things that knew better than to stand directly in front of you, things that understood at some level that the direct gaze was something to be avoided. The reason you see it at the edge of your vision and never when you look directly, I had been assuming that was a feature of the hallucination, a limitation, evidence that it wasn't real. But lying in the dark, I started to understand it differently. It wasn't avoiding my direct gaze because it wasn't real. It was avoiding my direct gaze because it was smart enough to. The peripheral shadow had stopped appearing on night 32, not because the presence was gone, because it had gotten close enough that it was no longer at the periphery. It had moved from the edge of my awareness to somewhere that my peripheral vision, which scans outward, which watches the margins, which looks for things approaching from a distance, could no longer detect. It wasn't at the edge anymore. It was directly behind me. I'm writing this at my desk. The lamp is on. The rest of the apartment is dark. It's 11-something. I stopped checking the clock a while ago. I haven't felt the neck warmth in 4 days. I've been trying to decide what that means. Option 1. It's over. Whatever the mechanism, it has resolved. I can stop keeping the notebook. Option 2. I have spent so long not turning that the absence of turning has become normal. The behavior is gone. The thing that the behavior was responding to is still there. I've been sitting still for about 20 minutes writing this, and I've been aware for approximately the last 5 minutes of a warmth at the back of my neck. I'm not going to turn around, not because I'm still running the experiment, but because somewhere in the last 32 nights I came to understand something about that warmth. It isn't a signal warning me that something is there. It's what the thing behind me feels like when it's comfortable, when it's been in a place long enough to stop being careful. The lamp is in front of me. The warmth is behind me. And I have just realized sitting here that I have been feeling it for 20 minutes. And in 20 minutes, I have not once wanted to turn around. That might be the most frightening thing I've written in this notebook.